Hey, it's Victor from Social Firestarter. Today I want to talk about something that I think a lot of people come across at some point in time when they're working with SEO. So basically, there's all sorts of guides out there online that try to teach you SEO. I was coming across uh, a discussion online, and there's all sorts of boards that you can find where people are discussing SEO for some reason or another. So if you've actually searched for different guides or different courses, basically anything that can start to really teach you proper SEO information. Um, Everything that I've come across, and I have a few sources open here that a lot of people like to go to, but everything that's really out there, I've noticed it kind of sucks. A lot of the info is maybe just lacking, like it doesn't really go into depth for anything specific, or it's either that or they're kind of presenting some information that is either obvious or outdated. So two things there: obvious, as in, you know, you might not even really have to be doing this type of optimization, or worse, outdated, which would mean that maybe somebody is is trying to teach people something that no longer works. So regardless of what's going on there, there's just a lot of guides out there that are really lacking, and I wanted to really quickly just talk about it a little bit so that you can understand how to filter through a lot of the information that you might come across regarding SEO. So for one, I want to start first just talking about the more obvious stuff, guides that are kind of just maybe somebody learned something from somebody else. Maybe there's an original course that teaches people a lot about SEO, but what happens is there's other marketers that then use that info, repackage it, and then try to re-teach it to other people. So there's a lot of issues that can come about from doing that, depending on the quality, obviously. Sometimes on the worst end of things, you might get somebody that's trying to use something that, some sort of tactic that actually has no effect in your category or niche. So that can happen as well. But in that type of situation, I think a lot of what the course is really, a lot of the info that it provides is really just on-page SEO. So on-page SEO, honestly, to people that don't do SEO, this is the majority of the knowledge that they understand as far as the optimizations. To actual marketers, honestly, I think a lot of times marketers actually overlook a lot of these little simple details. So this is just a random Reddit post. I don't think it's really worth linking in the video because a lot of this info is just found elsewhere. But we see here somebody mentioning that they went through a course and it just mentioned, using title tags, using H1, H2. It specifies some specific character lengths, which I really don't agree with. I think whenever somebody starts to specify something so specific where it ends up changing the way the content is, if the content is improving in quality, if it reads better, if it's higher quality, as in better English, or providing more answers, then that's good. But if you are, having to work around very specific character requirements or limits, a lot of time you're probably being way too specific to actually be effective. So, let me see if there's anything else worth mentioning off of, there's a bunch of little tweaks here, making sure that you're including all the target key terms within the content, not overdoing it with the key terms, not trying to stuff it. There's some info here about optimizing for speed. Again, anybody can say to improve the speed of your website. It doesn't really help you out too much. A lot of times it comes down to your specific website that needs like an actual professional to really see what tweaks need to be made to actually increase the speed. But I think this is a good summary of just the type of courses that you get out there from marketers. A lot of on-page, telling you how to tweak the actual website, which is great, of course, but that doesn't actually help you outrank a competitor. A lot of times that just optimizes the online presence that you already have, which of course is an important first step and an important ongoing step as well. But that doesn't, again, in competitive situations, especially with law firms, OnPage usually is not going to outrank your competitors. So looking at a Moz guide here, so Moz, they rank on a lot of important searches that you might be making. So you've probably come across Moz as well as some other big SEO blogs out there. These actually do show you some insightful information. Obviously, with any platform like this, with any brand that has SEO tools as a product or service, Ahrefs, Mangools, SEMrush, any of those companies like that, you do need to understand that they might give you some really valuable information from time to time, especially as the platform might change and maybe they cover exactly what changed in the platform so that you can understand how to adapt. That might really benefit you a lot, but I think it's really important that when you get information from sources like this, even though they're super, super authoritative, you got to realize that their blog is really, it's meant to sell their tools. It's meant to sell their platform. So a lot of times you do have to kind of keep that in mind because I've noticed lots of companies like this, like Moz or SEMrush or even Ahrefs, they'll put out blogs that maybe alarm you and maybe prompt you to go and try to update your website. But a lot of times that's exactly what they want you to do because it puts you in the position to perhaps purchase a tool that helps you better optimize the website. So a lot of blogs from sources like this, from really mainstream authoritative sources, they end up kind of just being out there just to kind of sell the service. So a lot of times they might blog a little bit more than they might need to. And then the last source I'll kind of just point out, Google Search Central, I guess it's the new name that they're trying to use, their new brand for all their documentation, all their info for search engines. I would say starting with the Google resources is a great idea. It's going to prevent you from being misguided. So I kind of showed a little bit of like 3 different sources there. One would be just the SEO marketer, 2, an authoritative SEO source, 3, Google themselves. So a lot of times I'm just going to refer to what Google is putting out there. That doesn't mean that you should listen to what the Google officials are saying on Twitter. Again, a lot of times I would say the things that they put out on Twitter, it's meant more so to try to guide marketers and webmasters more so than inform them about SEO. Meaning, they realize that if they're posting something on Twitter, like, if John Mueller goes on Twitter and says blog post mentions don't work, obviously that's not true. Maybe that's what he would wish. So it is possible to actually be misguided from actual Google representatives. But looking through guides like this, like where they really, take a lot of time to explain the intricate details. As you can see, it's a lot to read through. It's very, very technical. But a lot of times you end up understanding what Google is actually trying to do. I've realized throughout my time with SEO, a lot of the more valuable information actually comes down to being able to understand what Google is trying to accomplish as a company. Again, they are a big corporate company because they are so large, because they're publicly traded. They do have to, in essence, answer to the best interests of the shareholders. I think because of that, just in its nature, a lot of times you can kind of deduct or make predictions as to what's going to happen next just by watching how much attention they point towards certain details, like improving the quality of your content. You know, that's been a big focus over the past 2 years. The way that they implement AI to read through your paragraphs, you know, that's a big signal there. And I think just because it's a big corporate company, you can kind of deduct that they're not really going to make a very quick and ridiculous, you know, change in the way the algorithm works. A lot of times it's very systematic. And if you're really paying attention to a lot of the content that Google puts out there, I think you end up really understanding what's next, as opposed to the next factors that are really going to change things, that are really going to move the ranks and help you outrank competitors. And so I do value a lot, you know, what Google puts out there. Again, it is possible to even be misguided by officials, like on Twitter, but that's pretty much you know, my insight as to looking through SEO content and trying to decide, you know, is this anything of value, or is this kind of just something that's been recycled and reposted in an effort to sell me on some sort of service. That's pretty much it. Let me know what you think. I'm curious to hear about anybody that maybe was given like an SEO audit. Another thing that marketers try to use to maybe share knowledge, but a lot of times it's like a form of lead gen for them. So I'm interested if anybody has some interesting audits maybe they want me to check out. Definitely drop a comment on this video. Let me know what you think. But thanks for checking this out. Have a great one.